Hello, my loves, and welcome to the start of a new adventure and my 2025 reading recap. I'm not going to talk about every book that I read. I read 56 books across the year, and I'm carrying 2 books over into this new year, but I will talk about them in a bit. But I thought I'd start with just showing off a bit of my Storygraph stats. I have read 56 books this year. I'm in the middle of 2 others. A third one that has kind of been a soft DNF because every time I try and read it, I can only read about 5 pages at a time. So whenever I finish that, it will probably say that it's taken me 2 years to read if I ever finish it. I have read 22,608 pages. Nearly half of all my reading this year was done via audio, and then it was a bit more split between physical books and digital books, especially the latter half of the year. I bought a little iPad instead of a Kindle, which is what I'm looking at my stats on here. It's just really propelled my reading and how much I've been able to get through, which is great. My actual pages is 11,095 because then my listening hours made up the other about 11,000. So it's 321.42 hours, which is kind of crazy, to be honest. Looking at it like that, that's like nearly an hour every day. So I didn't want to just pick every book that I rated 5 stars or that I thought was at the top. I'm not going to do like a top 25 or 25 because that's basically half of the books that I've read. But I thought I'd tell you about my top 5 books of the year that I kind of can't stop thinking about and that I really, really loved. This top 5 isn't in any particular order. I feel like I could change my answer depending on the day of the week that you ask me, whichever one is to the forefront of my mind. And I'm going to start off with the only physical book out of this top 5, and that is Sunrise on the Reaping by Susanna Collins. I loved this, and I was really nervous about getting to this and reading it because I really did not like A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I had to really force myself, like really, really force myself to get through it. I think I talked about it in one of my TikTok videos maybe. This was spectacular. It was heartbreaking. It was brutal, like so brutal. And it's awful because obviously going into it, this is about Haymitch's games. You know he's going to win, but you know that there's still another 25 years until Katniss's game and the story from the original trilogy. So seeing everything that happens in this was just intense. It was so good. And now knowing that the film is going to come out later this year, I am scared for so many different reasons. I am scared that it's not going to be quite right. I'm scared that it's going to be right. I'm scared to see anything happen on the screen. I actually don't know what the age rating is going to be for it. It'd be interesting if it wasn't a 15, just purely due to the violence. I feel like this one was a lot more violent than the original trilogy from what I remember. I feel like I need to go back and reread them. I just love this, and obviously it was 5 stars. I read it so quickly. Let's hope the film at least does it justice. And then next I'm going to go on to the audiobooks. There's 3 audiobooks that I listened to this year. But the first one I want to talk about, I loved so much. I still need to get the other books in the series. But I loved this so much I had to get a physical copy. And I love a hardback. And it was Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I fell in love with this. I don't care that people don't like the main character. I love her. And I love the dragons, and I love everything about this world. I think the most gripping part of this is actually the connection with the dragons and the dragons themselves being like fully fledged characters. And then as the whole series goes on, I mean, this is the one that I rated 5 stars, and I loved Iron Flame. Onyx Storm wasn't quite as up there for me, but I think that's because it just took me a lot longer to get through. But this whole series was a 10 out of 10, and I am gutted that I have to wait for the new one now. I avoided series for so long because of the commitment to them, but this really brought back my love for fantasy and to get really invested in characters across a whole series. So I'm so grateful for this. But I actually listened to the graphic audios for all three of them, and these were so good, so gripping, really brought you into the story a lot more. I mean, I think at the beginning of all of them, they're like, it's a movie for your mind, because obviously it's just audio, there's no picture, but it was the same sort of production value as if you're watching a film. And I loved all the sound effects. I loved that every single character had a different voice actor. Like, it just made everything so much clearer. But I will definitely be rereading it. Maybe not this year, closer to when the fourth book is going to come out, whenever that is. And I think I'll read them physically. Oh, hello. You come to say hello. Go on then. Made me lose my train of thought, honey. To me, this was just fantastic and brought me into the world of romantasy as well. Off the back of Fourth Wing and I was going to say newfound love for dragons. I've always loved dragons, but I read another trilogy called The Aurelian Cycle by Rosiara Munda, and this as well was fantastic. Didn't quite make my top 5 purely because none of them gave me that 5-star feeling, but the dragons and their bonds and the political intrigue was amazing. If you like stories with dragons in, that's another good one to check out. From one insanely well-produced audiobook to another, this wasn't a graphic audio, but I listened to Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, and I loved The Martian when I read that back in the day when it was one of the like big things out before the film, and I loved it. I kind of love his like bumbling scientist characters that are just trying to make it through whatever they can, whatever the situation they're in. And I tried to read another one of his books that I have, Artemis, but I think I only got about 50 pages in and then just didn't really continue with it. So to hear that this was such a great book, but not only just a great book, but specifically on audio, I felt like I really had to check it out. Also because I had a load of Audible credits, because I always have them backed up. But if you have read this or listened to this, you will know that there comes a certain point where you might be listening to it thinking, it's just another audiobook, it's just some guy. Then it hits and it's so good. This is a sci-fi and the world is kind of on the brink of going to shit, basically. And he's on an expedition to save the planet. And he doesn't know how he ended up there or why. He's figuring it out along the way as you're figuring it out, as he's remembering what happened in the lead up to him being on this spaceship and on this mission. And he's alone for a lot of it. And it was just fantastic. Again, this is another one where there's a film coming out of it. I can't remember if it's coming out this year or next year, but I think this could be really interesting. But I'm also, it's one of those things where if they don't quite do it right, and especially the visuals of it, I'm not sure how it's going to go, but I am quite excited for that. And then the final audiobook on this list is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I read Circe a few years ago and loved this. I also listened to the audiobook for Circe and just thought it was done so well, loved the writing. I really do enjoy a Greek myth retelling, even though I don't necessarily know a lot about the Greek myths themselves. I've never studied it or read any of the originals, but I just think they're so gripping and so compelling, and the characters and how their relationships are all entwined, especially for this one where Achilles is the whole time trying to live up to this greatness, and then it just doesn't always go right, as Greek myths tend to go. But this was beautiful. The relationship was beautiful. And I thought the ending really did the story justice, considering where you knew it was going to go. I know it's one of those where it seems like everyone that's read it has rated it 5 stars, but it had to be in the top 5 for me because it just, I always think about it. It really hit me hard. The final book I'm going to talk about in my top 5 was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And this is one that I have been kind of meaning to pick up for a while, but I didn't really have the drive, I guess also the understanding of people being so obsessed with Taylor Jenkins Reid's. You know, when something gets a bit too overhyped and you just kind of think, I don't know if I can be bothered with it because everyone is hyping it up way too much. But this was well worth it. I read this digitally on my phone before I got my iPad. And I was also reading this during the summer. I was finishing it while I was away working. Like, I remember being on the beach in Scotland with like over 25-degree weather. It was insane. And reading this and just my heart wrenching for these characters. I love a book where you slowly get to know a character and just fall in love with them. So then towards the end, like all of their heartbreak, you're feeling their heartbreak, all of the decisions they've made, the stuff they've done throughout their life, you understand it so much and you see how hard it is for them to have gone to that point. And this was just so wonderfully written, and I loved all the conflicts of the characters and the reasons for it, and how she wasn't just some Hollywood actress. The depth of this character was stunning, and I just couldn't put it down. I loved it. I still think about it, which obviously is why it stayed in my top 5 of the year. Now, there's one book that I have to mention because it's a reread, but this is actually my all-time favourite book, and that is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. In the same way that I loved Evelyn Hugo, it's all about the characters for me in this, but particularly with The Night Circus, I love whimsy, I love being confused, not quite knowing exactly what's going on. And if this was a brand new read for me, this would absolutely be top of the top. But I thought, let's pick 5 new books. Let's not just go with the one that I already knew and loved. But I had to mention this because if you haven't read this, you absolutely need to. If you love whimsy, if you love characters that are bound together, then this is definitely for you. It's heartbreaking, but in the best way. So that's it for the books that I read in 2025. But going into this year, I can say that now, it's actually New Year's Day filming this, which is kind of crazy. I can't believe we're in 2026. My goals for this year, I only really have 2 goals, and that is I've set my reading goal to 50 books because I think if I stay consistent, I can at least achieve that, if not smash that goal. I would love to be able to be one of those people that can read 100, 200 books, but I am a slow reader. And my second reading goal for 2026 is I want to read a lot more series. One of the books that I'm carrying over into this year is Queen of Shadows by Sarah J Maas. And I had to be convinced to read Throne of Glass. And I'm not going to lie, the first 2 books were very hard work, but now that I'm here, I'm in it and I'm enjoying it. So we'll see how that goes. But I think I want to get through and read and get up to date with a lot more series. Starting Fourth Wing last year just made me really love following a journey throughout a few books. So if there's any that you recommend, please let me know. I think the problem with a lot of stuff at the moment is not necessarily what the books are, but just that a lot of series with hype at the moment, the books aren't all out. And I struggle with having to wait because by the time that I've waited, I will not remember. And I don't want to have to reread a whole series every single time a new book is coming out because I won't know what's going on. And I want to make space and time for new books. And then the second book that I'm carrying through into this year is Alchemized. I'm listening to this on audio, which I think is why it's taking me so long, because this audiobook is like 36 hours long, and I probably could have read it quicker if it was a physical book, but I'm really enjoying the narration. I think the atmosphere that it's creating is amazing, and I'm really enjoying having a long, slow book. I'm about not even halfway through, but I'm glad that I'm listening to it on audio, so I don't mind taking it through. I think otherwise you end up rushing and not enjoying the read so much if all you're trying to do is add it onto a number for the year. and I'd already smashed my reading goal anyway. I'm just glad to be enjoying my reading so much and enjoying the books that I've currently got on the go. So that's about it from me. Let me know how your reading went in 2025. Do any of our top books match up? What are you looking forward to with your reading this year? I have no idea about any new releases that are coming out, so maybe I need to get on that. But yeah, we'll see. Thanks so much for staying to the end if you made it, and for hanging out with me. And hopefully we'll see each other again in another video soon. Thanks, guys. Let's see if I can make a video from this.